Good to go.
All right. We are live, changing scenery.
Yeah. Got a little more of a podcast type of a setup going on tonight. So we're actually,
Traveling.
at a trade show. Been at trade shows the past couple of weeks, actually. So,
I mean, in-person connections has by far been the largest return on investment. It's just the biggest revenue driver is building relationships.
yeah, we were out until what time last night? Probably close to 1. No, probably not.
It was about midnight. We were out to drinks with the brand owner. It's like it's
yeah,
amazing how the chips fall sometimes.
yeah. And everyone's different too. It's like you have certain brand owners that you would never dream of doing that with. And then there's, guys, it just depends. Everyone has their own personality. And so it's cool that when you get a brand owner that's a lot more relaxed and able to.
I think the ability to get them to feel comfortable and open up and relax. That's really the biggest thing, because a lot of brand owners will find, they start out and they're not relaxed. They have their guard up, and then slowly over time, you ask those questions, you build those relationships. How are we doing on audio?
Good? Yeah, we're going on audio.
Yeah, you ask those questions, you build those relationships, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Now all of a sudden they're asking about your personal life and they want to get to know you, so that's what it's all about in this business.
Yeah. And we were talking last night where it's like, there was a certain point where it's almost like you stop talking about business. Like it was trying to just but you get so close and you get these personal connections that,
right.
Even if you think you might not be like getting anywhere by just talking about whatever, like building that, because we always talk about like every brand, like behind every brand is a person. And so connecting with that person is what forwards the relationship more than any sort of, in some cases, purchases or whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah. You check the audio. We're good on that, right?
Audio sounds good.
Yeah. So if you guys are jumping here live, pop any questions you have in the chat. Happy to answer them. Any Amazon related questions. Good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Amazon Wholesale is just really, for us over the years, it's been about, it starts, it doesn't just start with building those relationships, because in the very beginning, when you first start, you're not traveling like to trade shows, going in person and meeting these brands. I mean, how many years did it take before we actually
know what that, like, I didn't even know what that was. Yeah. Honestly, like, not until you started getting more involved in the industry was it something that, like we knew was even a thing.
Right.
It's like, I didn't understand you would go to a trade show and meet a brand. It was just like, and there's a certain point at which we talk about where it's like appropriate to do that. Obviously, you don't want to go and knock on the brand owner's door, if it's your first call necessarily. Yeah. But there's a certain point at which it becomes appropriate, and that it's not going to be weird, and it's going to like forward the relationship in a good way.
Yeah. But in the beginning, when you're first starting, really, I think the biggest thing in Amazon Wholesale, once you're all set up with your business, you got your EIN, you got your resale permit, so you could purchase tax exempt, so you could, show legitimacy to your suppliers. You got your email domain. Once those things are all set up, and obviously your Amazon account, then definitely the next step is sourcing the right kinds of brands. Because if you're in the initial stages, if you're not starting with targeting those smaller to medium-sized brands, you're never going to make any headway with closing, any sort of accounts or providing value.
Yeah. And we always talk about, like, when you say trade shows, going to kind of the smaller, like, niche type of shows has been better for us with small to mid-size, because things like ASD, in Vegas, if you haven't gone to ASD, if you haven't gone to ASD, it's the giant trade show with many distributors for the most part. And so we personally, we kind of like the more intimate trade shows, because again, it just fits the business model of like connecting with the brand owners and relations. Like, we're not going to go and talk to UNFI and
Yeah.
and develop a relationship with them.
We were talking to some people about, distributorship and everything, and it's like, it's actually, a model that's somewhat foreign to us in that, the distributors that we work with, we can make a close enough connection where, we're talking with a decision maker at the distributor, usually, or like a high up sales rep. So, but we've come to learn is that distributors, it's a lot of, inconsistencies with being able to buy, so you're buying on promotion, you're buying, doing take all opportunities, things like that. And not that that's bad. I just think, for us over the years, it's the biggest thing has just been about that predictability, the consistency, and, that's really the biggest thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you have enough SKUs, but it's something that I guess maybe there is consistency in distributorship, because if you're putting in the work either way. Like you're either putting in the work on the end of, like, we don't go through these gigantic price lists. I mean, we're not looking at scrapers and things like that, but it's the upfront and the initial work is kind of where there's a difference versus like consistently. I mean, for our SKUs, like we're replenishing basically the same items every week, every 2 weeks, or whatever it is. So,
yeah, and that's the biggest thing that you get in, brand direct wholesale. I think that in selling on Amazon, when you sell on a platform that has so much inconsistency, right, between, dealing with Amazon and headaches and account health, it's like we're trying to create predictability and consistency in, it's like, you're in a burning building and there's like all different things going on around you. We are trying to create that.
That's what Amazon is. It's a burning building is really one of the, I guess.
It's just constant fires you need to put out,
That's the kind of tweet that if we joked around about that on Twitter, we'd get like a seller help thing that tweeted back at us. We've gotten a couple of those.
Yeah, are they even real?
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. I haven't really paid that much attention to them. I think some of them are real where it's like, or some of them are companies that are like helping to pitch something.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because it's the keywords. I mean, we also like, depending on what it is, I feel like some of these are just automated and you have like, just based on a keyword, someone replies, like we had a religious organization because I said something about like keep us our Bible, and they so I don't know how legitimate they are, but they watch that stuff. I've seen people that have not been able to get help from either the customer or more likely the seller side, and then they've contacted or tagged Amazon support on Twitter, and they actually get a response. So
yeah, well, I saw a lot of when people were dealing with the regating, it's like a lot of people were tweeting at Amazon. It's like the executives at Amazon to there's strategies around that in terms of like, sending an email to jeff@amazon.com or like Darnish or whatever his name is at amazon.com. Like, those things can work like that. We've been in situations where it's like, you send an email to them and it's like, boom, out of nowhere, something good happens, so it's an interesting world, but that it goes back to, in this ecosystem, we're trying to create that predictability, the consistency. And the best way to do that by far is to either own the brand yourself, which is great. It's very attractive, but it has a lot of, there's a lot you have to do to get there.
Yeah, a lot of skill sets, a lot of difficulties. Like, for a beginner, I mean, someone who you look at something like arbitrage, and that might be an entry point, but then wholesale may seem way too hard. Private label for a brand new beginner, just say you have to learn how to market and you have to do this and that. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, and just in our own journey, and kind of navigating now into private label a bit, I look back on the history and progression it's taken in selling on Amazon, and now with private label, sites set on private label, it's like having 4 to 5 years of foundational experience of selling on Amazon. Like
now it's like, all right,
we got like a lot of components down. Like we've mastered a lot of different components, logistics and dealing with Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. So now you can learn the other component, which is really the biggest part of PL, which is the manufacturing and the research and development. but also the marketing and the brand promotion, and I think those are, like, if you could already know the Amazon logistics side and all of the, the fee structure and everything, like, it just makes
Yeah.
private label way easier.
I mean, brand direct is kind of like a gateway to other avenues because you're focusing on, building relationships and just, I feel like in general it's a life skill that you almost, not that that's not anyone goes into brand direct wholesale and brings it to their, no life coach prescribes brand direct wholesale as their assignment, but like it just translates into other things, one of which is just being able to build relationships, and that applies to a lot of other things, and it also has the skill sets associated with doing things like private label or starting your own brand in general, even if it's not on Amazon. So I mean, just like arbitrage has kind of been a gateway into wholesale, I feel like wholesale, especially brand direct, has been one to private label. But if you're doing just strictly, um, distributors all the time, and you're focused on the front end of scraping and getting the SKUs and constantly having buyers and things like that, then you're not really creating and optimizing listings and working with brands and growing and taking a vested interest as the brand as a whole, which translates into your own brand. So
right, it's, brand direct wholesale is a great stepping stone into private label.
yeah, and you get to do cool things like this. Like, I mean, that's one of my favorite parts. Like,
oh yeah,
of the business. Like doing. I mean, we have, it's good to get away and get off of the laptop, even though we.
No, and I think that I think if we could both spend the majority of our time doing these things, that's what we love to do.
Yeah,
it's the largest driver of revenue for the business. Sure. So the more time, we could spend on the phone or spend shaking hands or walking the floor or having drinks with, the brand owner, like, that's where the money is. That's where the highest ROI is. And in the beginning, maybe it's not all those things. Maybe it's just cranking out cold calls. And that's, what it was for many, many years. But as you gain more clout in the industry, as you get better at the skill set, you make those in-person connections, you start to move toward brand exclusivity, and it's, just a compounding process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the call, obviously, but I've noticed over the years as the skill set has increased, sometimes the quickness to which I will pitch exclusivity or something of that nature increases. Not because the brand is really any different. It's just because I know it takes less information for me to pinpoint a pain point, if that's a tongue mouthful. Pinpoint the pain point that they have and then jump on it. It's like fighting, right? Like when there's an opening, a good fighter takes the hit, and it's kind of been like that. And so I mean, people asked about it a lot last year. I had tons of people in person at the trade show that we went to that were asking me about driving out to meet a brand, and like I drove like 6 hours to go do it. And it's like, why would you do that, especially as a beginner? That seems so ridiculous and so foreign. Just like sometimes purchasing at a loss seems a little bit foreign and ridiculous, but you develop the sense to like wait till the opening is there, and then when it's there faster than you did when you were a beginner, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. John's got a question about bookkeeping services. So for bookkeeping services, I would recommend going to a2x.com and taking a look at some of the providers that they refer. Ecom, CFO, Bookskeep. Let's see. I mean, there's a bunch of them. Just go to a2x.com and look at all the bookkeeping service providers, and you'll be able to see the ratings. You reach out to them; they'll do free consults. So I would definitely take that approach, and I think it's a good step to take is working with a bookkeeping firm. Your seller board numbers are great. I would say if you're not working with a bookkeeping firm yet, or you're not quite there, use seller board, know it to a T, understand your inventory valuation, things like that. And then, from there, maybe mid 6 figures, 7 figures. If you're, doing a lot of volume on Amazon, I would say, the sooner you can streamline your books and just make sure you're organized with everything at the ground level, it's just going to help you scale.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you're backtracking from your payouts is essentially the most accurate way to do things. And it can really get away from you, like wholesale,
No
just in
doubt.
general. Um, Especially just Amazon. Like I know for me personally, when I way back when switched from like an eBay to an Amazon, I was blown away with the volume. The customer base, there's just so many more, people shopping that it almost the volume, it's great, but it gets away from you when it comes to the books. So um, it's something just to be mindful of as you scale and grow.
Yeah, and that's especially with wholesale, because by nature it is a lower margin, higher volume business. So
Yeah,
by nature of the model, you're moving more SKUs, you're moving them higher volume. Things could slip beneath the cracks easier. It's just really about having those systems set up. I mean, as far as Amazon wholesale, though, we very much so gravitate towards higher average selling prices. We really like those high ASPs. Main reason being is because we have to move less units to make this, the same, if not more money, and
which
more.
translates to less labor and
Yeah, yeah, more
yeah,
SKUs is just more management and labor and everything. So that's really the biggest thing. If you can increase your ASP, then maybe if you were selling like a $9 product or a $15 product, where it's like one thing goes wrong and your
yeah, we've been there.
slippage is like, you all of a sudden you're in the red. It's like, I'd rather have a much bigger margin, maybe making like 20-30 bucks a unit or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean,
There's way more room.
not to be like overly granular, but like if you're a more advanced seller and you're doing things like running ads, or you're anything like that, those lower price products, it is really difficult to get a good average cost of sale, click wise on a low product, because it's such a large revenue. Like the bid of the click is such a large revenue, part of the revenue, that it's really hard to efficiently advertise for products that are low. That's why people bundle and do things like that. So it's just, there's a lot of benefits to, you know, higher ticket items that we found.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with running ads, like you said, if that's a value pitch you're given to a brand,
Yeah.
like, and you're planning to absorb the cost for that, you gotta just, I mean, we really won't absorb a lot of these costs unless, like, if it's a low selling price, it's got to be moving a lot of volume, to
Yeah.
be running ads on it. And if not, it's got to be a higher selling price, and there's gonna be enough margin in the game.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be moving 100,000 units a month. Like I wouldn't want to be running that type of a month, like as opposed to just, um, I don't know. You're looking at so much more, money would have to go into the management of something versus to accomplish the same exact thing. So if you're targeting a smaller um, group of products at a higher sell price versus the same exact total sales value at a much lower price, I mean, you're going to be losing points off of your bottom line, because just strictly the labor to do that, and that's, you're doing nothing, no difference in sales. So it's an efficiency thing almost,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
People don't think about it that way though. And we kind of stumbled on it by accident, and then it was just like, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I think Amazon wholesale, the traditional route is to carry, like,
Yeah, it's
let's get a
volume.
lot of SKUs, as much, move as many units as we can. And don't get me wrong, like, we all want to move a lot of inventory. Like, we want to move, like, the better selling products we can get, the more our business grows. But just, I think, when you're, running your business and kind of setting out a vision for where you want your business to go, just gravitate. Nobody's saying you can't carry those 9, 15, $20 products, right? Nobody's saying you can't.
Mm.
We have plenty of them. It's about just the vision and where you want to go, focusing maybe more on your sourcing efforts to get some of those higher ASP products to make up for what might be, $2 profit type products.
They're gonna say $2 products, so you're not making anything on that.
Yeah, well, we see that stuff all the time.
Yeah,
These big sellers who are just losing money,
I've seen some. I mean, even actually a couple weeks ago, I saw something selling at like $5 that was making money. It was profitable. It's like
it's got to be
they're
really
out there.
small.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. They're out there, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, Baghira. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, enjoy the live streams. Question is, how do you guys, or a question I have is, do you guys have any VAs? If so, what are their roles in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking the question, Lewis. Glad to hear you're enjoying the live streams. So we have multiple VAs running various ends of the business. Generally, most of our VAs are in the Philippines. We do have a couple domestic VAs that'll help out with different tasks. But the best way to outsource is to understand what is sucking up the most amount of your time, determine what the task is and how many hours it's taking up throughout the week. And then from there, you can delegate the role so long as you know how to do it yourself. And once all that's taken care of, in terms of what you outsource in Amazon Wholesale, there's many things you can outsource. So sourcing is one of the best and first things you can outsource is sourcing once you learn that process, because it can be tedious and time consuming, going down that rabbit hole, finding the brands. So once you have a process for that, an SOP, you can outsource sourcing to a VA. They can populate a list of leads, and then you go and contact them to secure a wholesale account. You can outsource going through price lists. So when the brand or the distributor sends you a list of products, you can say, hey, to your VA, analyze this list, tell me if it's profitable, compare it to the listings on Amazon if they sell, and then you review that sheet. You can outsource filling out wholesale account applications. You could outsource everything. Like you could outsource the whole business model. What else am I missing here?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we look at it is, if I could do nothing, unfortunately, like we still have to do managerial things, but if I could do nothing but do outreach to brands, that's the driver of revenue. So that is because people ask us, like, what do you do in the business? And so that's the primary focus, just because that's a driver of revenue. It's something we enjoy doing, but it's also what pushes the needle forward. So other than that, you can really outsource anything. It just has to do with, the biggest thing that we see is not training the VA, and definitely a mistake at the beginning. Like I've made that mistake 100%,
Yeah.
where you're like, all right, I got the virtual assistant. I gave them their tasks, they're good to go. If I can give you any advice, like put more time than you think you need to in training your VA, because it's going to streamline the process, because they're not going to have to ask you so many questions. And yeah, just whatever the task is, just really train them. We've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, and I would say spend a lot of time on vetting your VAs in the beginning. If you're using like Online Jobs PH to find Filipino VAs, there'll be some great candidates that you get, but really making sure the person that you're getting wants to grow into the role. I think the soft skills are more important than the, absolutely knowing the exact task that you want them to do. Things like personability, things like, vision and really like wanting to grow upward within the company. I think those things go way farther than a specific task, because you can always train the task. You can't teach those other things. So that applies to any sort of hiring process. And it's hiring in the Philippines is no different than hiring in the US. You're just, hiring from another country. So you're doing things virtually on Zoom, and the Filipino VAs are cost effective, and they do excellent work. They work very hard.
Yeah, for sure.
So we got a question here. How do you feel about emailing brands first, then calling those that don't reply? After 2 weeks, we've seen great success with this approach.
Well, it's good. I mean, I'm glad you have success with it. Yeah, so it's all based on, for us, is the analysis at the brand level. So let's say that there is an email for the brand but there's no, no phone number, but it's a really, really high caliber account where we have a lot of ammunition in terms of like looking at the listing and different things like that in terms of contacting them. Those things are best articulated over the phone. So we're going to find a way to get a phone number. And sometimes you have to get creative with that. We've done some kind of weird stuff to try and get phone numbers. Um, but
What kind of weird stuff?
yeah, yeah. I don't know if weird was the right word. Creative stuff to get phone numbers. Yeah. And so we've done things to get phone numbers on higher caliber accounts. When it comes to lower caliber stuff, I mean, yeah, sending an email is okay. And if there's a phone number available, then we'll call. But a lot of times you just get the runaround if you send an email to, call, or just if you call, you get the runaround to send an email and fill an application.
Versa,
So
yeah.
it really, the key that we're looking for is tonality and hearing and understanding what a brand owner has to say. And that's only done through calling. So for me, I personally have like a FOMO of, if I don't call, did I miss something?
Yeah. Oh, I have that FOMO all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
So that being said, I mean, the last point I'll make on that is that the CRM that I use I have the ability to send out automated emails from, right? And if you're using a CRM, you should have that as well. So
You want to just tell
yeah,
them?
CRM is, I always screw this up. It's like customer
Relationship manager.
I would say like customer resource something. I don't know. Anyway, but it's a customer. Your database in this case would be all your suppliers that you're reaching out to, and it's just a way to organize and manage them. For me, I have it spread into different stages. So if it's leads or when we're in negotiation or whatever it might be, and you're kind of able to manage where they're at in the pipeline. And CRMs have functions where you can send out mass emails and things like that. So you can automate it for yourself, make it a little bit easier. Just another thing you can outsource to, something virtual.
Let's jump over to Instagram for a second. We got Jared. Thanks for joining, buddy. Nice to have you. What are ways to further endorse exclusivity, so brand exclusivity, when they say they have other long-term people who have been selling the products? That's a good question.
Yeah. I think that determining, because we deal with this a lot. We dealt with this week, is you look at what's the reasoning. We had the meeting with a brand owner, and I had asked him a question that uncovered the reasoning as to why he was loyal to some other sellers, and the light bulb kind of goes off at that point.
Yeah, I think that right there is what we found, or at least, me personally have found to be the biggest challenge to solidifying exclusivity is, especially, with industry specific companies, is they have such strong ties with those other industry specific companies. So that is always the barrier, the hurdle, right? But I think, like you said, the biggest thing is understanding why. What is the relationship like with those other, industry specific long-standing customers, and how can we potentially coexist with them for a period of time? And then as we build that volume, that relationship, show them what we're capable of, then maybe they say, hey, you know what? We understand that Amazon is a platform that's driven by price. We understand that it really serves no strategic advantage to have multiple resellers selling, because there's only one buy box. Price goes down with multiple resellers. And those are things that may happen over time. But I think you're walking a fine line with the industry specific companies, in that you don't want to come right out of the gates and with the exclusivity, because it could, they could be like, whoa. Yeah,
you have to walk a lot slower in a situation like that, from what we found. But it's like, saying blood is thicker than water.
Yeah.
I've heard that. It's like saying that the actual meaning of that saying is like your family is over anyone else. Like someone like, if it's your blood, that's different than just somebody type of deal. And it's kind of like the same thing, where the relationship sometimes with these companies has been for like decades. It's crazy in the e-commerce space. And so going in and trying to disrupt that as someone who's only been working with them for 6 months or a year or 2 years is difficult. And so coexisting, like you said, is really important. But they have a different relationship with a lot of these clients, basically. So treading lightly and slowly uncovering things as to what the reasoning is behind their loyalty, and then working from there. But it's tough.
Yeah, and you might be able to coexist with those guys. Like if they're merchant fulfilled sellers,
Sure.
priced higher, a lot of times we'll find the brand's biggest hurdle to going exclusive with us is, well, I got these guys on the listing, those guys on the listing, but we look at them on the listing and they're priced way higher.
Not
So it's like,
competitive.
just let them be.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have any effect.
Yeah. Do you guys continuously reach back to suppliers that you were rejected by? Well, for reference, today, Brad got hung up on and looked at me and went, "I'm gonna call him on Friday." So, yeah.
Well, I think it's about gauging the tonality. And that conversation that you referenced, he forgot our prior conversation.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to remind people of things, so I think it's gauging the tonality, gauging the degree to which it's possible for you to actually close the account, gauging the caliber of the account. That was one thing that for some time we were, it just got to be like, why am I still following up with this brand? They don't sell enough, or it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So it's like, if it's a really high caliber account and you're met with resistance, maybe they don't understand Amazon, and there's an opportunity to educate them, it might be worth following up for a year, 2 years, but if they're really high caliber. But if it's, a little nothing account, like, I wouldn't follow up more than once.
Yeah. I mean, there's an account this year that has been reached out to for probably a year prior. Constant response, no response. Send one email, response, and then working on, actually signed into partial exclusivity, working on the rest of the line.
Yeah.
And that was after how many? No responses.
Probably a couple of years. I mean,
years.
It was just, sending emails. It's like, and then out of nowhere, it's like, oh, here you go.
There's nothing that's going to substitute for when the timing is right with a brand. And so the whole thing we talk about is, if you're not staying top of mind and you're not continuously doing something on something that's worth it, obviously, it's like FOMO. You might miss your shot to I like the fighting analogy. I feel like I haven't used that one before, right? It's like when the gloves go down, you're there to take the shot. Just add it to my list of
sayings. Yeah.
Arguably,
I think timing might be the biggest factor in everything. When it comes to like securing exclusivity or building relationships with brands, it's like timing is so critical and important. And for you, the only way to increase the odds of hitting the timing right is to just keep swinging, keep staying in the game. And the only way you do that is by following up for extended periods of time, because most people are not doing that.
Yeah, consistency over perfection every second.
Yeah. Jumping back over to Instagram.
U.S. workers are lazy. Yeah. That's. I mean.
Yeah.
A lot of people are lazy in general.
We got a question here about selling in categories. What are some categories you would say beginners should target? Umair, that's a good question. We get that question a lot. So we sell in all different kinds of categories. We don't restrict our business based on the category. That being said, we like selling in a category like grocery or.
Why is that?
Returns. I mean, you're not getting any returns in grocery or like beauty and personal care, because there's again less returns in that. That being said, we're all over the map when it comes to categories. In some instances, there are industries that were a little bit heavier than others, but overall, I would say beginners should target, go wide on the category standpoint. I don't think you should limit your opportunity focusing on one category over another. Sports and outdoors can be just as profitable as
I
automotive,
was
which
going to
can
say
be just as,
automotive, you have less of a fee in automotive.
yeah,
It's a 12%, right?
12%
As
referral
opposed to a
fee.
15% in other categories referral fee. So same thing, if you can actually, if the category you're in is applicable to automotive as well, on a different product, you switch categories, you're going to save yourself money right off the top, which
Yeah,
is an interesting thing.
which is huge. People don't think that 3% is not. That's big numbers when we're
Yeah.
with Amazon. We have to conserve on the gross margin level as much as we can. And if you could flip from 15 to a 12% referral fee, and it's a high ASP product,
Mhm.
you could save a lot of money.
Yeah, and same thing if the item is in a category that's smaller. I mean, if more people are searching for something in the automotive category, in general, if it's a larger category than whatever you're in, it might make sense to get more eyes on the product to begin with. So,
Right. Question about the CRM.
yeah, CRM that I like is NetHunt, just because I just am used to it. But all CRMs essentially do the same thing. It's NetHunt. But that's what I recommend because it's what I know. But you can use whatever you want. They're basically all the same. It's just about, more importantly than the type of CRM or the name of the CRM, it's how you set it up. So you got to set up something that works for you.
Is that one that you use specific for Amazon, or it's just a general CRM?
No, it's a general CRM.
Yeah.
Brad uses Excel spreadsheets because he's 100 years old. So
It works for me,
That's the thing, though, too. Like, we do stuff differently, and like we have the same answers for 99% of the questions, but like the things that we do, sometimes we have a different approach, with a brand on the phone or whatever it might be. And there's not one that's right or one that's wrong. It's just goes to show you, again, it's the consistency of doing it. No matter how you do it, just make sure that you're doing it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think at Amazon Wholesale, everybody, the sellers that win are the ones that are savvy, that stay in the game long, for a long, long time, who follow up for a long, long time, who are not willing to take no for an answer. Those are the guys that win in Amazon Wholesale, the ones that have grit. So, but everybody sort of develops their craft and their way of doing Amazon Wholesale, way of doing outreach, and that personability element of it, is what makes you successful.
We pitch different things. We have different ways of expressing. It's not like we're actually very different in our styles, I feel like. But again, it's just about, it's not one that's right or one that's wrong. It's just, and everyone will develop their own system and way of doing things.
Yeah, the best way to do that is by volume, just contacting. Tim, what's going on, man? About to submit info to a wholesaler who is inquiring about my unique market position. Any tips or suggestions for someone newer to this industry?
I would assume you're going based on an email. But I mean, why don't we talk about maybe how we approach the on the phone thing first, in terms of like when someone asks, or tell me a little bit more about your company type of deal.
Yeah, so the first thing you really want to emphasize to the brand, or the distributor, is that you are an e-commerce company. Don't say you're an Amazon
You can use this
seller.
in an email too. It's more of a fluid conversation.
Yeah, is that you are an e-commerce company. It's beneficial to say that you stock product, because a lot of times when you reach out to a brand and you say e-commerce, they think drop shipping. Mm-hmm. So what an easy way to overcome objection number one, which is, no, we're not going to ask you to ship on our behalf. You're not our warehouse. We're going to carry the inventory. We're going to place a stocking order up front. And brands, distributors, they like that. We've had multiple conversations at the trade shows where that overcomes the first hurdle, and they're like, all right, here's the account. I mean, that's a really easy way of overcoming rejection right off the bat. Another thing that's important is to give them a location. Location shows legitimacy. And then, from there, that's like for a newer seller, because the second part of your question, Tim, is about newer sellers. Like those three things, if you could showcase those three things right off the rip, you're going to put yourself in a much better position. And if you can articulate them professionally, just sounding different than the thousands of people that are reaching out to them. How many brands have said to us, like, you sound different?
Well, the call I had actually, while we were at the trade show, Fred and I have had multiple calls that we've had to step out and take, during the show. And I had a call with a brand today, and they said, we looked at sellers through 2024, and we did so much research, and we really just did a ton of research on the Amazon and whatnot. And they said, you provided me more in this one call than I learned all of 2024. And that's not to say like, oh, we're so great, right? Like that's to say like, it just is about articulating yourself in a different way, because a lot of times, unfortunately, the bar is very low for, an email to be sent to demand exclusivity. That's what you get.
See that
we
lot.
See it all the time.
Yeah.
And so just articulating yourself in a way that is genuine is like, you're already 90%. You're in the top 10% at that point.
Yeah, and then you follow up.
Oh yeah,
It's
now
like
the top
you're just
5%.
Then you keep shrinking that percentage.
Yeah.
It's that's the way to do it. Is that's your unique market position, and again, you slowly give them more. As they give you more resistance, you kind of navigate the puzzle a little bit differently. So you give them a piece of information here. Well, first it was stocking, shipping, inventory, product, our location, e-commerce company. And if they're not really sold yet, well, then maybe now you got to come in with, all right, well, here's what's wrong with your presence. Here's what we can do to fix it. So just, again, providing value, showing you're a legitimate business, and going above and beyond is really the biggest things for a new seller in the industry.
Saw Gianni on Instagram was saying switching up the location, switching up the setting. Yep, that's right. We're traveling, so I kind of like this though. I like the it's actually we're on like we're on the 34th floor, so we have you can't see anything right now. It's dark out, but really good view.
Yeah. If you guys like this setting, maybe we'll keep it this style going.
Oh yeah, we'll just we'll rent a hotel every week.
So Dylan joining in, asking what are the requirements needed to be able to make edits to the listings, like pictures, bullet points, and keywords.
What's up, Dylan? Welcome. Appreciate you joining. Yeah, so Amazon likes to be finicky, and that's putting it lightly. With edits to listings. And that's because, you can't blame them to an extent, because they only want contributions by the brand or by someone that's representing the brand in most cases. Now, there's not always going to be someone that's representing the brand or the brand on the listing. So, in some cases, they'll take the highest, what's called a contribution score, which is this. There's factors. Do we know what increases by what number? I have no idea. Amazon kind of has that internally, and we know that's because we've talked to people at Amazon who've confirmed this. But the biggest thing that increases your contribution or your ability to make a change to a listing is being a part of the brand registry. So if the brand is registered on Amazon and you can get a part of that brand registry through your seller account, they can put you on as a user. Then you will very much like the brand
contribution score shoots up.
I almost said the brand score. I'm thinking of Smart Scout. The contribution score goes up substantially. So which I literally, maybe they're watching the stream, I got an email from a brand about changing images, about making the brand registry just now. So interesting.
So that's your best bet at executing on those promises of images, optimized listings and such. Is first you got to get the brand registry, and then from there you will have more power with Amazon to make those changes. It's an interesting hierarchical structure the way Amazon does it, but brand registry gives you a much better chance at getting things done.
Yeah.
But even with brand registry, you'll probably still have to go back and forth with Amazon.
Yeah, and one of the tips that I've always said is you're able to get on a call with a team, like a specialist on Seller Central, seller support, that there, because there's a whole section that says chat with a specialist. If you're able to do that, that's, you generally have better luck with articulating what's going on.
Yeah.
It's definitely a value add to know that both of you have different ways to skin the cat. Differing approaches still reach an effective outcome. How do you deal with business disagreements? No, we don't really disagree on anything. It's kind of crazy. It's like, I don't know. We disagree on stupid things that don't matter, I feel like, more than anything. It's like,
which was what was something we disagreed?
We were mounting a shelf, and I thought that the thing was real brick, and Brad was like convinced it was like a veneer, and we started like fighting about it.
Yeah, but there was another one that was a little bit more important, where it was like the
well, anything is more important than that.
That's true. Well, it was like the what we wanted to make the backdrop of the wall.
Oh yeah. It's all got to do with walls. We fight over walls, so that's I guess really what it is.
No, I mean, like you said, Tim. It's like everybody's got a different approach. It's just about talking. If there's going to be friction, it's just about talking through it, and understanding. Different people's approaches. We've holistically work very well together, but at the end of the day, there's certain points of friction with certain things, and you just gotta talk through them. And
I think if the ideology is the ideology is aligned and the goals are aligned, I think that figuring out a way to get there you can work that out. That's what's important. I think we fight over walls. That's what we do. So we actually I use Notion for a CRM. Yeah, it's interesting. We what did we do with the so we bought panels for a backdrop, and then we put the panels up in one location, and then we realized we didn't want to shoot there at all. So then we went to a different location, and then we started to put the panels up in that location, and then realized that we didn't like the panels in that location. Took the panels down, shot without them, and now we never finished putting them up in the first location, which now we want to go back to. So those are our business problems that we have.
I just figured out you could turn the heat on in the office.
Yeah. It's like unreal. It's like for any of you guys that have been watching these streams for a while, like we clicking on these questions, it took us what was it, like 6 months to figure out
the questions. We didn't know the questions could go on the screen.
Yeah, we joke about like, and it's funny, just being savvy, we like make fun of ourselves with it, is more important than being smart when it comes to Amazon wholesale. And sometimes, and I'm sure everyone does this, you catch yourself you look at what you do and you're just like, wow, that was not a smart move. But
yeah, and Amazon in general doesn't have to be wholesale. Just selling on Amazon, whether it's private label, arbitrage, wholesale, I think the savvy person wins all the time. If you bring in brains to the table, that's great. Like, you need to be smart to execute on a lot of these different things. But combination of you don't have to be a genius to sell on Amazon.
Yeah.
I think having that savvy mentality, that grit, that determination
we wouldn't be in there.
Yeah, no, really. I mean, having that grit and determination to overcome the challenges is really the biggest thing in selling on Amazon. So. To that note, if you guys have last minute questions, drop them here in the chat. We'll probably get this wrapping up soon. If you guys are here, we go live every Wednesday, 7:00 Eastern. And we love answering your questions.
Yeah. If you guys want to weigh in on the veneer versus brick argument, we can record a video knocking on it to see what the consensus is. I think I'm wrong though. I think I'm slowly starting to admit that I'm, it's not real brick, but hey, whatever.
Jared, appreciate you too. Thanks for joining in. It's nice to have all you guys. And yeah, I mean, any last minute words here?
I appreciate you guys always, tuning in. For those of you that are here every week, it's incrementally, we're just all learning together and growing together in this. And it's really cool to see. I mean, we've seen some really good success from some people. So we always talk about it, and this is how I've been ending the stream every week now. But if you find value in our content, please share it with another entrepreneur or someone that's selling on Amazon or considering starting Amazon, because we always talk about how like this has become such a big part of our lives and changed our lives, and Amazon can do that. And so we want that for other people too. So if you found value in this, feel free to share it. You could change somebody's life.
Thanks, guys. Peace
See you next
out.
week.